creating a news agenda that reflects an unbiased view of Asian current affairs without relying on external news sources. Asia Vision, Asian news through Asian eyes.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to AV News. I'm your host Malak Ahmad Fayaz, here to bring you the global news that matters. In the next half hour, we'll cover everything from world politics to cultural insights. Stay tuned. Western sanctions on Syria restrict students' access to most online platforms that provide essential tools, technology and software, placing Syrian students at a disadvantage, making them less competitive compared to their peers in other countries.
The Syria Astronomical Society in Damascus is the only institution in the country that teaches space science. It organizes various activities for children. Children come here to catch a glimpse of the moon and stars, gaining knowledge and developing a passion for space. It's an experience unavailable anywhere else in Syria. Space science isn't a part of the Syrian school curriculum, so the facility provides the only platform where children can pursue their dreams. However, these activities are hampered by Western sanctions, which ban the import of telescopes into Syria and block access to essential software and websites. Muhammad Al-Usairi, head of the Syrian Astronomical Society, expressed frustration over the sanctions, stating that educational tools should not be targeted as this unfairly punishes children. To provide observational activities for children, the facility relies on 2 outdated telescopes, which are imported piece by piece and assembled by local staff. There are no computerized telescopes available, let alone AI-driven equipment. University students also struggle under these restrictions. Though the sanctions are intended to weaken the Syrian government, they are affecting all levels of Syrian society. Disruptions to education have both immediate and long-term consequences, impacting the Syrian children and students who will one day shape the country's future.
Chinese space engineers address technical challenges in Mars sample retrieval as China prepares for the Tianwen-3 mission, which involves 2 launches to return samples from Mars by around 2028.
The mission is expected to become the world's first such attempt on the Red Planet and will involve international payload cooperation as well as global collaboration in sample and data sharing. The plan is structured into 13 stages, employing both in-situ and remote sensing techniques to conduct comprehensive research on Mars samples to ensure that they can be successfully returned and yield meaningful scientific discoveries. The chief designer unveiled more details of the plan in a recent interview with China Global Television Network (CGTN). He said that the mission's top priority is to search for traces of life on Mars and will involve critical engineering technologies. China is making progress in its manned lunar mission, which the chief designer said could pave the way for future human missions to Mars in the decades to come. Humanity's journey to explore the Red Planet began 64 years ago with the former Soviet Union's 1960 Mars mission. To date, 7 countries and international organizations have conducted 47 Mars exploration treks, achieving flybys, orbital missions, landing and surface rovers. However, the challenging task of returning samples from Mars remained unaccomplished.
China announces to life all-access restrictions on foreign investment in the manufacturing industry as part of the latest efforts to promote wider opening up to the rest of the world.
According to the National Development and Reform Commission (NDRC), the country's economic planner, the 2024 negative list for foreign investment access issued on Sunday will come into effect on November 1st. This marks the first update to the negative list in 3 years. According to the latest version, the only 2 restrictions for the manufacturing sector, publication and printing, must be controlled by Chinese parties, and the application of processing techniques such as steaming, frying, roasting for traditional Chinese medicine, and the production of confidential prescriptions for Chinese patent medicines will be removed. It means that from November 1st, foreign invested firms will fully enjoy the same access treatment in China's manufacturing field as their Chinese counterparts. The Foreign Investment Access Negative List has undergone several revisions since China first issued the negative list for the Shanghai Free Trade Zone in 2013. Over the past decade, the total number of items on the negative list or restricted sectors for foreign investments has now been reduced from 93 items to 29 in the latest version. Foreign investment in China has covered 20 categories of industries and 115 major industry sectors. From 2017 to 2023, paid-in foreign investment in China increased 25%, and that in high-tech manufacturing up 37.4%. In the future, China will further ease market access for foreign investment in the service sector, promote orderly opening up of such areas as telecommunications.
The 20th edition of India-US Joint Military Exercise 2024 commences as foreign training node in Mahajan Field Firing Ranges in Rajasthan.
This edition marks a significant increase in the scope and complexity of the joint exercise in terms of troop strength and equipment. The Indian Army contingent, comprising 600 personnel, is being represented by a battalion of the Rajput Regiment, along with personnel from other arms and services. The US contingent of similar strength will be represented by the troops of 1 to 24 Battalion of the Alaska-based 11th Airborne Division of the US Army. The aim of the joint exercise is to enhance joint military capability of both sides to undertake counter-terrorism operations in a subconventional scenario under Chapter 7 of the United Nations Charter. The exercise will focus on operations in the semi-desert environment. Tactical drills to be rehearsed during the exercise include joint response to a terrorist action, joint planning, and combined field training exercises that simulate real-world counter-terrorism missions. Exercise Yudh Abhyas will enable both sides to share best practices in tactics, techniques, and procedures of conducting joint operations. The joint exercise will also enhance defense cooperation, further augmenting bilateral relations between the two friendly nations.
To provide an impetus to upskilling and capability building of its personnel, the Indian Army and Indian Air Force signed an MOU with the Gati Shakti University that has a comprehensive curriculum of infrastructure development and transportation projects.
The Defence and Railway Ministers of India were present during the signing of this Memorandum of Understanding at the Defence Headquarters in Delhi on Monday. Gati Shakti is the first of its kind university aiming to fulfill the mandate of the national development plans across railways, shipping and highways. The idea is to prepare students of this university for the best of global leaders in the fields of logistics. The defense minister said this agreement would strengthen India's military operations and national security. Meanwhile, the railway minister said the university offers multidisciplinary and specialized programs for skilling in multimodal transportation, logistics and supply chain management.
Recent U.S. media reports have said that President Joe Biden is preparing to formally block the planned takeover of U.S. steel by Japan's top steelmaker, Nippon Steel.
In a news conference, Tokura Masakazu, the chairman of the Japan Business Federation, Keidanren, pointed out that business deals should not be affected by presidential election politics. Tokura said he will be keeping a close eye on the issue to see if it is decided on according to the rules. Nippon Steel and US Steel agreed on the takeover deal late last year. Tokura pointed out that the United States is a country that attracts an extremely large amount of foreign investment each year, so it needs to make sure it can guarantee free trade without jeopardizing its own national security. He said that would be in the US interest and the US should be a global leader in that approach. Tokura said Japanese companies are making a lot of investments in the US, so Japan wants to see that the US steel deal is dealt with properly according to the rules.
Tang Hua Seng, a beloved department store in Bangkok's Thonburi district, has closed its doors after serving the community for many years.
Known for its affordable prices, quality products and a sense of community, the store had been a fixture in the neighborhood for over 30 years. The closure comes after years of financial challenges and a changing retail landscape. The final days of Tang Hua Seng were marked by a sense of nostalgia as customers flocked to the store to purchase final items and reminisce about past experiences. Many expressed their appreciation for the store's personalized service and unique selection of goods, particularly the extensive range of crafting supplies. Founded in 1962, Tang Hua Seng began as a family-owned business, and the store later expanded in 1991, undergoing a major renovation in 2011. Over the years, it tried to adapt to the global changes by adding online shopping channels, but it was unsuccessful, leading to continuous losses in recent years. The store stated that negotiations with new investors were ongoing and not finalized, and if successful, the store would reopen. Thai retailers face fierce competition from online channels, especially with the influx of Chinese goods that dominate the market. The government must implement measures to protect Thai businesses, including setting import standards and addressing tax issues.
Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi holds talks with Vivian Balakrishnan, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Singapore, in Beijing.
Wang, also a member of the Political Bureau of the Communist Party of China Central Committee, said that as two forces working for stability, China and Singapore need to strengthen strategic coordination and communication in the turbulent world. He said that the two sides should give their full play to dialogue mechanism at all levels in all fields, make good use of their mutual visa exemption policy, and deepen the construction of a China-ASEAN community with a shared future, thereby pooling greater joint forces and injecting sustained impetus into regional integration and economic globalization. Meanwhile, the Foreign Minister of Singapore said that Singapore abides by the One China policy and opposes Taiwan independence. The new Singaporean government is ready to use the 35th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between Singapore and China next year as an opportunity to prepare for high-level exchange and expand comprehensive cooperation. He extended his congratulations on the success of the 2024 Summit of the Forum of China-Africa Cooperation, which brought new opportunities for the accelerated development of the Global South. He said Singapore firmly supports free trade and the expansion of two-way investment between China and ASEAN and stands ready to work with China to uphold the multilateral trading system with the World Trade Organization at its core.
The 78th session of the UN General Assembly closes concluding a year in international diplomacy and underscoring the need for collective resolve among nations to confront pressing challenges.
Secretary General Antonio Guterres said that the past year had been marked by continued poverty, inequality and conflict, emphasizing that it was also the hottest year on record. Addressing the session's final plenary meeting, he highlighted the hope and inspiration in what can be achieved if the global community works as one. He also applauded the leadership of Assembly President Denis Francis. Guterres reiterated that the UN and the multilateral system itself can only be as effective as member states' commitment allows. Addressing the Assembly for the final time in that capacity, President Denis Francis underscored the importance of unity, urging nations to confront global challenges with all available resources to build a more secure future. The outgoing GA president said that the world is undergoing unprecedented transformations driven by revolutions in artificial intelligence, digital technology, and scientific innovation, adding that these transformational breakthroughs hold the promise of a better tomorrow, offering enhanced standards of living and welfare for everyone, everywhere, but only if progress along this path is inclusive. The meeting also saw Philemon Yang, President-elect for the 79th session of the General Assembly, take the oath of the office of the President of the General Assembly. Yang declared he would perform his duties truthfully as Assembly President, acting in all loyalty, discretion and conscience. He committed to always exercising his authority as President in the best interest of the United Nations and in accordance with the UN Charter and Code of Ethics. President Denis Francis then declared the 78th session closed and handed over the iconic gavel to President Yang.
China's exports jumped in August, but imports fell well short of expectations, data showed, as the country's leaders struggle to boost consumption in the world's second-largest economy. Overseas shipments expanded 8.7% on year last month, according to China's General Administration of Customs, picking up speed from 7.0% growth in July. The reading was also much better than the 6.6% forecast in a Bloomberg survey of analysts. The figures will provide a little encouragement to leaders who have this year sought to counteract an array of headwinds that have dragged on growth, which has led to sluggish spending, with consumers reluctant to make large purchases. However, imports in August grew just 0.5%, a massive drop from the 7.2% enjoyed the month before and much lower than the 2.5% estimated in the Bloomberg survey. The data comes a day after news that consumer inflation picked up last month to a 6-month high, but still came up short of expectations, leaving many worried the economy could slip back into deflation. Zhang Ziwei, president and chief economist at Pinpoint Asset Management, said in a note that China's economy continues to show divergent trends, with weak domestic demand and strong export competitiveness, both reflecting the domestic deflationary pressure. Zhang added that the question is how long exports can stay strong given the weakening U.S. economy and the rise in trade tension. China has charted an uneven economic trajectory since the abrupt cancelling of strict counter-pandemic measures in late 2022. Its rapid economic development in recent decades have been propelled in part by booming exports supported by a colossal factory sector. However, a closely watched report last week showed manufacturing activity shrunk last month at its fastest pace since February. Bangladesh's War Crimes Tribunal is to seek the extradition of ousted leader Sheikh Hasina from neighboring India, its chief prosecutor said, accusing her of carrying out massacres.
Weeks of student-led demonstrations in Bangladesh escalated into mass protests last month, with Hasina quitting as Prime Minister and fleeing by helicopter to old ally India on August 5, ending her iron-fisted 15-year rule. Mohammad Tajul Islam, Chief Prosecutor of Bangladesh International Crimes Tribunal, ICT, told reporters that as the main perpetrator has fled the country, the legal procedure to bring her back will begin. The ICT was set up by Hasina in 2010 to probe atrocities during the 1971 independence war from Pakistan. Hasina's government was accused of widespread human rights abuses, including the mass detention and extrajudicial killing of her political opponents. Islam added that Bangladesh has a criminal extradition treaty with India which was signed in 2013 while Sheikh Hasina's government was in power. Hasina, 76-year-old, has not been seen in public since fleeing Bangladesh, and her last official whereabouts is a military airbase near India's capital, New Delhi. Her presence in India has infuriated Bangladesh. Dhaka has revoked her diplomatic passport, and the countries have a bilateral extradition treaty which would permit her return to face criminal trial. A clause in the treaty, however, says extradition might be refused if the offense is of a political character. Interim leader Muhammad Yunus, a Nobel Peace Prize winner who took over after the uprising last week, said Hasina should keep quiet while exiled in India until she is brought home for trial. His government has been under public pressure to demand her extradition and trial over the hundreds of demonstrators killed during the weeks of unrest that ultimately toppled her.
And with that, we conclude this edition of AVN News. Thank you all for watching. Hoping you all enjoyed these stories and insights we have shared.
Creating a news agenda that reflects an unbiased view of Asian current affairs without relying on external news sources. Asia Vision, Asian news through Asian eyes.
එබැවින් හිවන